Elon Musk launches Hard, an AI-only rival to Microsoft. Nvidia halts H20 chip production after China tightens rules. Starlink power cuts reveal weaknesses in satellite internet. ChatGPT leans on Google search even as it tries to replace it. And an IT administrator pulls off one of the dumbest sabotage attempts ever. Welcome to #Trending. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. Last week, Elon Musk announced a new venture called Hard, an AI-only software company under his XAI umbrella. The idea? Since Microsoft doesn't manufacture physical hardware, its operations could, in theory, be fully simulated with AI. In Musk's words, it's a tongue-in-cheek name, but it's also a serious attempt to build a company run entirely by intelligent software agents. Musk has a history here. He's been one of Microsoft's sharpest critics, especially after the company's multi-billion-dollar investment in OpenAI. And he's openly warned that Microsoft was seizing too much control over the future of AI. And finally, he hasn't forgotten that it was Microsoft that stepped in to rescue his nemesis Sam Altman during OpenAI's boardroom showdown. In many ways, Hard looks like a challenge born of that resentment, a way to prove that AI can be built differently. A trademark filing from earlier this month hints at Hard's ambitions. Downloadable AI tools for speech, text, image, video generation, coding, and even game design. And if you've seen Microsoft's view of the future, this echoes it precisely. And behind it all sits Musk's Colossus II supercomputer in Memphis, being expanded with millions of Nvidia GPUs to power this AI-driven experiment. Hard may sound like a joke, but it's a true Musk counterpunch, taking aim at Microsoft's AI empire and trying to show what a truly AI-native company might look like. Nvidia has halted production of its H20 AI chip after Beijing moved decisively to reduce reliance on U.S. technology. And Chinese authorities warned companies about possible backdoors in the H20, but they went further, mandating that Chinese data centers must source at least half of their AI chips from domestic manufacturers. That policy puts Nvidia and other American chip makers in a tough spot, effectively shutting them out of a big portion of future Chinese demand. The H20 was Nvidia's most advanced processor still allowed under U.S. export controls, and China represents a fifth of the company's data center revenue. When Nvidia Chairman Wan managed to convince Donald Trump to let him resume exporting, it was seen as a great victory. Now, losing that foothold could reshape the global AI hardware market. It's a reminder, too, that Nvidia might be the most well-known, but it isn't the only player in AI silicon. Google, Meta, and Amazon have already developed their own chips. There's no reason China can't follow that same path, and Beijing seems determined to do just that. Nvidia is not going to fall apart. It will remain a powerhouse. But the days when it looked destined to dominate the AI chip world are now less certain. By overplaying its hands with export restrictions, the U.S. may have pushed China to accelerate its own bid for leadership in AI hardware. Starlink's latest outage is raising new questions about how resilient satellite internet really is. A series of power cuts at ground stations caused service interruptions across several countries last week. While the satellites themselves kept orbiting, the loss of power on Earth exposed a critical weak point in the network, the reliance on terrestrial links to keep data moving. Critics argue that this is just another reason why Earth orbit constellations may be less resilient than fiber. Underground cables are harder to disrupt than satellites, and they don't depend on hundreds of ground stations, each one vulnerable to power failures or even attack. And reliability isn't the only concern. Reports show that in some regions, Starlink is already hitting saturation points, with too many users competing for limited bandwidth. That raises doubts about whether satellite internet can scale to meet the growing demand without major upgrades. With Starlink now carrying traffic for governments, militaries, and emergency services, these issues are more than a consumer inconvenience, potential strategic risks. The outages and bottlenecks are reminders that while space-based internet is valuable, it may remain a complement to fiber rather than a true replacement. Sam Altman says he can't remember the last time he used Google, but it turns out he's not being entirely truthful about that. According to reporting from The Information, OpenAI's chatbot actually quietly relies on Google search for some of its real-time answers. In fact, OpenAI has relied on Google search for some time, even after being officially turned down when OpenAI wanted access to Google's search. That was surprising given that Microsoft was officially OpenAI's partner. But documents revealed earlier this year that OpenAI avoided leaning too heavily on Bing because it felt that Bing's results weren't as strong as Google's. That makes Altman's claim, "I don't use Google anymore," a little harder to believe. ChatGPT may be designed to replace Google, but right now it still depends on it behind the scenes. The irony highlights a bigger question. How long will Google tolerate quietly powering a potential rival? And can OpenAI ever build a search product that doesn't lean on the very company it's trying to disrupt? ChatGPT may look like a Google competitor on the surface, and no doubt OpenAI will try to break this dependency. But sometimes, you need to take Altman with a grain of salt. And finally, an IT administrator in the UK has entered the contest for the stupidest hacker of all time by trying to sabotage his employer's systems using his real name. According to the registered 28-year-old Jordan Webb was found guilty of deliberately disrupting servers at a logistics company after his contract wasn't renewed. His plan was to cause chaos, then offer his services back to the company as a fixer. But investigators didn't have to dig far before the malicious activity was traced directly back to an account in Webb's own name. The sabotage caused tens of thousands of dollars in losses before the scheme was uncovered, and the courts took it very seriously. Webb has now been sentenced to prison and banned from working in IT for 5 years. Despite the humor and the irony, this is proof that insider threats are serious. Companies need to put in place processes and defenses because you can't always count on your best security tool being the stupidity of the attacker. And that's our show. If you like what we're doing, please share the show with others. Give us a like or comment on your favorite podcast app or site. Those comments and ratings are part of what's made this show and its sister show, Cybersecurity Today, two of the most popular tech podcasts in North America. And we're found everywhere: Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and more. We're back on Alexa and Google smart speakers as well. We'd also like to hear from you. You can reach me at technewsday.ca or .com. Just go to the Contact Us page, and while you're there, if you'd like to support what we're doing, please go to the Donate tab and consider contributing just the cost of a cup of coffee a month to support the show. And if you're watching this on YouTube, just leave a comment under the video, but your contributions would be gratefully accepted as well. I'm your host, Jim Love. Have a marvelous Monday.